I'm very excited about this tutorial video because it's kind of the beginning of our Daemon Targaryen's tournament armor tutorials. This is more of an undergarment, so it's not as much of a featured piece, but it's his tunic. It took a lot of work, so I'm here to give you guys that information. Let's go ahead and dive on in. So I'm using a faux gray suede, like kind of a dark charcoaly gray. And the sewing pattern I'm using is a Simplicity S9593. I'm specifically using like the C tunic length, but the A sleeves. So I'm tracing that all out and cutting it all out. Only for the outer fabric, not for my lining yet. Now his tunic is in stripes, so I took every single pattern piece and I marked 2 inches and created vertical strips. So I'm marking all of that, cutting it into strips, and then I had to reassemble those pattern pieces, pinning them together, not like completely together, just the physical pattern piece strips together to reassemble it, and then I sewed it together. So I had the pattern pieces again, but with the striping that his tunic has. I would recommend ironing after that, but on a low setting because you're using suede. Now I'm going ahead and I'm tracing and cutting out my lining fabric, which I just chose like a cheap light gray cotton that felt comfortable. So now we're assembling everything. So I started by doing the suede outer fabric for the top portion of the tunic, pinning all of that together. And then I did separately the skirt, pinning all those pieces together, not pinning the top and the skirt together, of course. Assembling the sleeve as well for the outer fabric, and then I did the same process with the lining fabric, where I assembled the top, the skirt. I left out sleeves, but do sleeves. And then, of course, sewing all of those sets together from what I have pinned. I found it helped the most to lay out the pattern pieces, so that way I knew how to map everything out. You'll also notice I totally did the skirt too long originally. For the back pieces, I had to cut those down. So don't make those mistakes. That's more of the A length. You want that B to C that's kind of shorter, so it will stick out past like your skirt scales, but not completely down to like past your knees. Also, yes, a quick hi, hello, and guest star from our favorite little loaf, Nan. And then sewing stitch, I just did standards. I would recommend an overlocking stitch as well for everything, just to help hold it together, but you're going to be lining this to finish all of your edges too. Next, I was pinning together my skirts and tunic tops for the lining fabric as well as the outer fabric. Now with the outer fabric, you have to play it really careful because you have to line up your stripes. So be paying close attention as you're pinning versus like with the lining fabric where you're just lining up edge to edge kind of a thing. And then obviously sew those together. Now I'm starting to attach my lining fabric to the outer fabric by at the collar, like my neckline, I am sewing inside out basically, so I have them flipped wrong, so that way after I finish sewing just the neckline, I will flip it over the right way and that seam is going to be hidden inside of the tunic by the lining fabric. From there, I went ahead and pinned and sewed on my sleeves. You'll obviously have a lining fabric for this. I don't, so I'm actually folding over the lining fabric to hide the seams as well with like French seams. That's when you can finally turn everything the right way out on your tunic, and you'll have an opening flap between the lining fabric and the outer fabric because you're now going to take a darker gray silk to create your bias tape. So I'm just cutting strips to create a double fold bias tape. I like it better because it gives me clean edges. I think I did them about 3 inches thick, 2 to 3 inches thick. And then fold that bias tape that you just created around all of the outer edges of your tunic. So this is gonna close off that bottom portion with a nice clean edge, all along the sides, the edge of the sleeves, and even the neck. Now I didn't show this because this is more at your discretion. Normally Daemon has those dragon clasps, but since this is going under jousting armor, I figured that might not be the most practical, so I just did little ties using the same fabric from my bias tape. You can kind of do as you choose. There's not really reference images to show you what was the tie off underneath his armor. Thanks so much for watching this cosplay crafting tutorial. Sorry if it was a bit of a mess. If you want to see what we made actually with the finished cosplay, make sure to check the links in my description and let me know what your crafting questions are in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see what I'm crafting up next. Bye-bye!